Hi everybody, my name is Kate and welcome to our webinar today, How to Run Simple with SAP Screen Personas. You'll hear first from Rob Jerome, Vice President of Innovation and Technology at Dickinson & Associates, and then two of our consultants, Brandon and Olavo. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can submit them using the Q&A dialog box, and we'll be answering questions after the presentation and demo. And now I'll hand things off to Rob.
Thanks, Kate. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Everybody, thank you very much for joining our webinar today. It's a topic that we're very excited about. I'm sure that some of you have been on some of our prior webinars with Fiori and HANA. Over the past few months, we've really made a focus on the newer technologies and innovations in SAP. We're very excited about today's presentation and today's webinar, given that it's Screen Personas. And as we joke in the office, it's the new face, or part of the new face of SAP, and not your grandfather's SAP. So the team's very, very excited. I would encourage folks to ask questions at the end. We've got a very good team on the phone today. And with that, I'll just go through our agenda here. Okay. So introductions, I'm going to have our team do a short introduction of themselves and their background. We're going to go through the new SAP UI strategy and UX strategy, specifically Screen Personas and the demonstration today, run by Brandon and Olavo, and specifically customizing the home screen and focusing on creating a rush order. At the end, we're going to go through some questions and next steps. Again, I would encourage everybody to ask questions. We've got some technical folks on the phone, and we can then take it from there. So who's on the phone today? I'll introduce myself and then have the team introduce themselves. My name is Rob Jerome, and I'm Vice President of Innovation and Technology here at Dickinson & Associates. So anything related to database and technology, HANA, analytics, business objects, and the newer technologies like Screen Personas, Fiori, those fall under my area of responsibility in my group. We've got two folks that are key in that organization today, Brandon and Olavo. I'll ask Brandon to introduce himself first.
Hey guys, this is Brandon Lage. I am the UX practice lead at Dickinson & Associates. I've been an SD guy for many years and then made the transition over into mobility shortly after the SAP acquisition of Sybase. So we've been working on some level of mobility and UX since 2010, 2011, and looking forward to the call today.
Hi everybody, my name is Olavo Figueiredo. I'm a technical consultant with Dickinson as well, and I work with a lot of the new UI tools SAP has been offering like Fiori and Personas.
Great, thanks guys. With that, I'm going to quickly go through a little bit about our organization so the folks on the phone know who we are if you haven't attended one of our webinars before. So who is Dickinson & Associates? Well, the short answer is we are an SAP Gold Channel partner. We do everything from SAP implementation strategy to the implementation itself and post-implementation support. We are headquartered in Chicago with offices in New York, Scottsdale, and Cincinnati, and we've done deployments overseas in China, in Europe, in Mexico. We've got about 140 consultants, and our core component or our core capability or what distinguishes us from competition is really the length of service or experience that our consultants have in the SAP world. All we do is SAP. We don't do any other technologies, and we have, on average, 15 years of SAP experience. Our tagline is business people who know SAP. A lot of us have come from industry. We haven't been consultants for our entire career, so we have a lot of good, solid industry experience in multiple industries, and I think that distinguishes us from our competition. So what sets us apart? Pretty self-explanatory, but our people do. Again, we've got the right consultants, the right management team, the right level of experience, and the last bullet point on this slide, companies don't implement SAP. People do is really a good description of our company belief and our view on how we do successful SAP deployment. Some of our partnerships and designations, again, these speak for themselves. We are an SAP Gold Channel partner. We can resell the software, we can resell the maintenance, and we have very close working relationship with SAP. We're very proud of the relationships and the partnerships that we've had and we've established over the last 16 years of us being in business. And finally, our service offerings. We call this our wheel of offerings. But if you follow it clockwise from professional staffing on, we can staff resources on projects. We can do strategy, implementation, everything from soup to nuts, from staffing a project to planning a project, doing the implementation, and post-implementation support. So with that, that's enough about us as an organization. We're going to dive right in here. I'm going to hand over now to Brandon Lage and let Brandon take the webinar from here.
Great, thanks RJ. And I've got just a couple of slides on the SAP user experience strategy, how we got to today and how do we move forward, how has SAP helped prepare us for that. And then I really want to get into the demo. We've got two really great demos that will show not only the usability of personas, but some of the possibilities as well. So, excuse me, the picture today. So in 41 years, SAP has used 20-plus UI technologies. Right now, the SAP GUI as we know it covers somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 screens. No one is exactly sure what that number is, but the ultimate point here is that it's a huge number, and that SAP GUI as we know it came out in the early 90s. So we're dealing with something that's been around for 20 years and covers a very wide range of SAP functionality. So the question then is, why does it take so long to update why does it take so much time to update the SAP GUI? And the answer is the massive number of screens and transactions that are out there. Additionally, in UI and UX, there's short technology cycles. So in 2010, when SAP bought Sybase, it was all about MBOs, and then there's been 5 or 6 new things that have come out since then. So if you think about it, how many mobile devices have you had since the mid-90s? It's probably been a lot. And because technology changes so quickly, it's very hard for anybody to keep up with that massive amount of functionality. So that was the challenge that SAP had. This is not like a database that gets replaced every 15 years and new technology comes out. This is pretty much every year there's something new. So with a high level of functionality and customization, upgrading the UX is nearly impossible. So that's what SAP had. Now, what they came up with as a strategy 10 years ago, Hasso Plattner got caught on the idea of design thinking. And the idea is that we start with the human approach to interface design. So what they came out with, what resulted was the new strategy, which is new, renew, enable. So it's very simple. All new applications that come out from SAP are going to have a consumer-grade experience. They're going to be responsive. They're in HTML5. They're in standard languages and standard protocols that will work across a variety of devices as technology changes. The renew section is, so of those 400,000 screens, if we take 80/20 into account, there's a lot of transactions that all companies use. They all create sales orders. They all create invoices. A lot approve time and approve POs and approve all sorts of things. So a lot of those common things, SAP is going through the work to put together a new refreshed user experience for those. And a lot of that is happening with their product called Fiori. While it's not in scope for today's demo, that is something else we are using within the user experience group to help companies modernize a bit. So SAP provided Fiori free of charge to cover those highly used scenarios. Fiori is customizable. There's design standards that are out there. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out because it's very simple and it works across any device. I can do the same thing on my phone that I do on my MacBook, that I do on my iPad, all the same thing. And then the last piece of the modernization strategy for SAP is enable, and that's really the long tail stuff. That's what we're talking about today, which is, all right, I've got the common things, and SAP can do that, but of those the rest of those 400,000 screens and saying, how do I make changes to those? How do I allow partners and customers to make their own changes and to kind of take control of their user experience? And the answer that we're talking about is, of course, personas, and that's what we're going to review today. So ultimately, the good news is that we've come a long way. The next slide, and our deck's a little slow in updating, but the slide here says that, we've come a long way. In the upper left is the standard SAP Create Sales Order screen, and in the lower right is a Fiori application. So there's 3 different screens doing the same thing that we previously had to do the hard way on a desktop in SAP. So how does Dickinson and Associates approach SAP UX? So this is different than the vast majority of the projects we take on because we start with the user and we start with user experience and we lead with design, and it's very important. And, the quote that's been coming up a lot is if you think good design is expensive, you should look at the cost of bad design. So this is absolutely a part of every user experience project is starting up front and saying, how is the user going to be interacting with this? And it's not just the graphics, but it's the whole experience. What happens in the back end? How can we make things more efficient in what they're doing? If we start with that, we've got the tools to put together, a simple, beautiful interface. We've got Fiori, we've got personas. It can happen very quickly, but the main thing we need to do is start with design. Then, of course, we take a long-term approach to UX. So while technology changes every couple of years, new devices come out all the time. Every October, we've got a new iPhone. We want to put in the technology that will support that. So we use HTML5. We use personas that is built into the NetWeaver gateway that SAP controls and is not changing. So I think we're going right into personas next. Yes. So SAP Screen Personas. So SAP Screen Personas, the 2.0 version is in production right now. So we're going to be demoing on 2.0 today. Additionally, we have a 3.0 environment up and available, however, it's in ramp up. So 3.0 made a big splash at TechEd. There are some pretty good enhancements to it. It's available to partners right now, as well as some select customers that are helping SAP test it out, but it'll be available for general release very shortly. So Persona simplifies SAP screens by allowing user-based customization without the need for a developer. What you'll see in the first demo is that Olavo can pick apart the existing easy access screen and in less than 10 minutes make some pretty significant changes that if you extrapolated those out and put them in for you as a user, it would be a pretty powerful thing, and you'll see that he needs 0 development ability to start out. Now, there is some more advanced scripting that we'll show you as well that does require some technical expertise, but initially, it's like creating a PowerPoint. It's pretty cool. So based on DynPro technology, it's browser-based, so we use Chrome. It's just a URL that you hit and log into SAP that way. So minimal infrastructure. It installs on the NetWeaver gateway, which a lot of customers have or are getting already. And then there's no Silverlight requirement as of 3.0. So right now in 2.0, we require Microsoft Silverlight for rendering. In the new version, that's been built in, so that'll help the infrastructure folks out as well. So Screen Personas, this is the demo that SAP likes to use, which is the shell example. So before they had 7 screens and 45 clicks, and they're down to 3 screens and 26 clicks. So the idea here is that we want to optimize processes with this. I want to eliminate screens. I want to eliminate clicks, because these tasks that are done all the time, if I can cut every one in half, that's going to save a lot of time. All right, it works on SAP GUI, DynPro screens. It requires ECC 6, and for 2.0, it requires 7.21. Currently at 7.21. For version 3, which is coming out, it requires 7.4. So that's just something to note. You may need to go through a kernel upgrade. Not for DynPro applications, not for CRM, SRM, iPad, or iPhone. It is not mobile. There are some things we can do with advanced scripting and presenting different flavors on different devices to make it mobile light. But if you want to go mobile, that's the Fiori path. If you want to streamline processes and simplify the user experience, that's Personas. Personas 2.0 available now, 3.0 ramp up coming out shortly. So just one last slide on this, and we get this a lot. It's when Fiori, when Personas, because ultimately they're just tools to execute a bigger strategy of mobility or of user experience. So Fiori is keep the simple things simple. It's routine tasks. It's those that renew phase where it's commonly used things that all customers do. They're ready to run out of the box. You can do some customization, and they work on smartphones, tablets, desktop. It's the same experience across all. Screen Personas is productivity through personalization. Specialized task, custom environment. It covers all GUI transactions, so all 400,000 screens, plus all of your custom stuff can be redone in Personas, and it takes very little time. Generally does not require a developer unless you get into scripting, and it works on desktop only, Windows and Mac. Okay, so we're going to walk into the system demo, and I want to set up Olabo's demo here. The first demo he's going to do is a simple home screen customization. So he'll show you how to pull all the fields off, keep those fields that you need. He's going to create a launch button, one for launching a transaction within SAP, and then one for launching a website. And then finally, he'll do just a little bit of scripting. He's going to write a script where we enter a user ID in, and then I return their first name, last name, and email if you wanted to look someone up in the system very quickly. So, Olavo, go ahead.
Thanks, Brandon. So I will start out with my SAP Screen Personas login. Press that. Okay. So this is what they call the basic view, and this is what everybody's familiar with in SAP. This is what everybody logs into when they go to an SAP. And as part of our first demo, we're going to show you how easy it is to personalize this screen, either for your user's needs or for a specific role within your organization. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a copy of this basic view. And I'm going to name that Personas. Now we go straight into edit mode, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a lot of these elements, these fields that we don't need. So I'm going to start clicking on things and just hiding them. Because what we want to do is simplify the screen as much as possible. I can also remove these toolbars up here. And however, I do want to keep some elements of the screen, so I'm going to actually pull them out of the toolbar and put it into our main screen. This includes this go-to button, our transaction bar, our logout button, and our SAP inbox. So see how easy I can just drag them out like I'm editing in PowerPoint, and then I'm going to go ahead and hide these toolbars as well. Now, our screen looks kind of vanilla, so I'm going to add a background image. And that's as easy as going in here, and we can upload an image, and we'll do the Chicago skyline. Now you can see that my buttons kind of disappeared, so I'm going to go ahead and move this image to the back. And now our buttons look kind of lost in the sky, if you will. So what I'll do next is kind of upload another image and use that as the launch bar. There you go. Now this is kind of large, but that's okay because we can resize it, and then we'll move it to the back so our buttons pop up again. Now we have a nice little launch bar for our most used buttons. And we can go ahead and actually just rename these so our users actually know what they do. I'll take my inbox button and add a label to it. And then finally our logout button. Yeah. So basically what we have here now is your standard SAP logon screen, or the one that you go into when you log in, only with the fields that we need. but now we're going to actually add some functionality to it. What I'll do first is I'll add another launch bar. There we go. We'll go with the gray one. We'll very easily resize it to an appropriate size. And then we'll go ahead and add some launch buttons. So we'll go here.
Hey, Olavo. We just had a question come in that said we aren't seeing anything with your demonstration. All I see is your SAP menu. Can we confirm that?
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. Can someone put in the Q&A box that they're seeing it should be a picture of the Chicago skyline?
Can you see that, Brandon?
Yeah. Okay, we got some people seeing it. So for the one person out there, I apologize if you can't see it. Go ahead, Olavo.
Okay. So we'll go back into edit mode here. Now within our second launch bar here, let's go ahead and add some buttons, and we'll do that by adding a launch button. For a launch button, we can do a transaction, a web page, or a menu option. So we'll demo a transaction first, and I'll put in my favorite transaction, VA03N. And actually we'll put that here, and we'll call that display sales order. We'll hit OK, and we have a launch button. So we'll put that right there in the middle. Our second launch button will be a website. Same thing, we'll go in here, and we're going to do our DNA website. Choose web page as the option, and we'll just go ahead and copy our URL. Okay. We'll hit OK, and now we have a website link on our home page. And then lastly, we'll do a menu option. Same launch button, we'll choose menu option, and then from here we can choose any menu that's available to us in the standard SAP screen. And for example, I'll choose the system status. Let's make sure we put a label on that. I'm going to save and exit. So now this is what my screen looks like when I log into SAP. If I'm a CSR person, I can go straight into display a sales order. If I want to go into the DNA website, I can click on this link. Like we're missing the, there you go. We put a transaction. So let's fix that. And if we click on the button now, we pop up our web page. And finally, we'll demo the status launch button that we added. When we click on that, we get our system status pop up. Please don't copy any of this information. And then, so these are some very basic things that you can do without any development skills, really. And then next, what we're going to do is just show how a very simple script works. So first, I'll add another launch bar. Go, we'll resize it. And then before we get into this, so what this script is going to do is we want to have a functionality where we can just type in someone's username, and then we can see right away their first name, last name, and email. So in order to get this to work, the first thing I have to do is put in some text box for our input and output fields. So this is where we'll display our first name. And our last name, and finally, our email. Now, the easiest way to create a script is to do what we call a recording. What a recording does is we go through our normal SAP transactions, or we click on the buttons that we want to, while in the background, we record all of this so we can easily put it into a button that will repeat those actions for us. So I'll click on the recording button here on the right, and we're going to go into SU01 transaction, hit enter. I'm going to type in a user. I'm going to hit display, and then I'm going to double click on the fields that we want to get as part of our script, which is our first name, last name, and finally the email. Now I'm going to exit this screen and exit back to our home screen, and this will finish our recording. Once we're done recording, we can save this file as a text file, and you'll see how we can upload that into Personas in a second. I will go back into edit mode, and I'm going to create what's called a script button. And we'll label this user lookup. Now, using this button here on the bottom left, we can upload our script file. Now I'm going to enlarge this window a little bit so we can kind of see what's going on. Each step on here is a single action from our script. So from this window, we can kind of edit that script to make it a little bit more dynamic. So first I'm going to clean up some of these items here. We don't need this focus. Now, if you remember when we double-clicked into the fields that we needed, I did that so that specific field would be captured into the script. But what we really want to do with that field is save it to a variable. So I'm going to edit the double click here, but instead of doing a double click, we're going to do a copy value. And since this is our first name, we'll copy it into a variable called first. And then we'll do the same thing with our last name. Finally, our email. Okay? And then now that we have these values saved, we're going to want to paste them into our main screen. And so we'll just add a couple script steps for that. But instead of doing a copy value, we'll do a paste value. Using this pointer here, I can select where I want to paste that value to, and I'm going to click on our first name box, and I'm going to paste the value first. Okay? Now we'll do the same thing with the last name and the email. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a refresh command so our values will copy it from the new screen. Okay, so I'm going to look over my script to make sure everything looks good, and I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And you see that we create a user lookup button. Now when we hit that button, see that we get our information here, Olavo Figueiredo, and an email. Now this isn't very dynamic. I don't want to look up just my information. I'm going to go ahead and edit the script to make it a little bit more dynamic. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the field that I have on our main screen so I can pull in the username that I want. So I'll go ahead and do this, click on this box here, and do a copy value. We'll copy that into a variable called username, move that up the chain. Then when we enter the value for the username that we want to look up, instead of entering olavo.f, we'll just copy that variable. We want to paste it. And we'll fix the email as well. Then we'll hit save, and now when I enter in olavo.f, pulls up my information, but I can also enter Brandon's last name, or Brandon's username. So now all of a sudden we have a script that's responsive and dynamic. Now our users, when they want to look up user information, instead of going through the clicks of going into the SU01 transaction and looking that information up, they can just put all their username in this box right here. Now, the last thing I'm going to show that's very easy to do is called an HTML viewer. Now, we demonstrated earlier how we have a link to our DNA website, but we want to take away clicks, right? So why don't we bring the DNA website into our homepage? That's done with an HTML viewer. Now I'm going to put in the Dickinson Associates website. that up. Okay. And then we'll drag our HTML control and make that nice and big. And now we have our DNA web page right on our main SAP page. You can basically put any HTML into this screen, so you can have anything from CNN.com to your organization's SharePoint or maybe your staff website. You can also do, maybe an image of the day type of thing or a quote. Basically anything that is in an HTML out in the web can go into this window. Now this is, you can see that we did this with about 5 to 10 minutes of some development, most of it not very technical except a little bit in the script. But if you spend some more time on this like we did, you might come up with something that looks more like this. And this is our Dickinson & Associates homepage. So when we log in SAP, we log into this. You see that we have our logo here on the top left, and we also added some links that go to pages that are company specific, like our Twitter page, our Facebook page, or even our LinkedIn page. So if I click in there, it takes us right into our LinkedIn page. And what do you know? We're doing a webinar on personas today. So let's go ahead and like that, and then go back into our demo. Now here on the top, we have our, the only buttons that kind of survived our modification from the main SAP screen. And then here on the right, we use that same HTML viewer to kind of bring in a weather widget. So when we scroll over that, it kind of, reminds us how cold it is in Chicago today. Now, the main part of our screen here on the left, we have a web box, though we actually added some other websites that we can click into, and it kind of almost looks like an iPhone screen. And then here in the middle, this is where we have our main launch box that would go into, do our transactions or run our scripts that we'd actually use on a daily basis. And here on the right, we have a history tab that pulls up our latest documents, which we'll show as part of our next demo. Now, with that, I'll turn it over to Brandon.
Thanks, Olavo. So for the next demo, we wanted to show some more of the scripting within SAP. So we aren't going to demo creating the script. That took a little bit of time. There will be some additional training that we put out on the LinkedIn group that shows a little bit more around how do we do this advanced scripting. So by the way, join the LinkedIn group if you haven't already. We'll be posting a lot of things out there, just tutorials, how do you work with personas in a better way. But what we wanted to show here was an entire process. So for this, we picked the sales process, and the scenario here is that we've got a rush order that's come in. So the CSR takes an order, and I want to get that order out the door as quickly as possible. Now, SAP documents everything very well, and a lot of those documents need to, wait for delivery due and wait for shipments to be created and all of that stuff. So what we wanted to do was put this in one script to say, I want to enter in all the order information. I want to take down their ship to and their bill to information. This is a one-time customer. I want to collect their credit card information. And then I'm going to use all the functionality within SAP that already exists. I'm going to bundle it up in a script. And then when I click one button, I want to create the order, I want to create the delivery, I want to create the shipment and the handling unit. We've set up an API out to FedEx. And so once I've created all those documents in SAP, I go out to FedEx, I create the shipping label, and I return a tracking number. So with the customer on the phone, I can give them the tracking number, and then by the time I hit save and hang up with the customer, the pick ticket and the label are both printing out in the warehouse. So that's the scenario here, and I'll turn it back over to Olavo to give the demo.
Thanks, Brandon. So our CSR in this scenario would click on the Create Sales Order button. And then it's going to bring up our modified DA01 screen. Using scripting, we've pre-populated some of the fields on our screen, such as the ship-to party, here you go, and the sold-to party, as well as the PO number. Now, even though your users might forget this, it's important to note that this is still our VA01 transaction. In fact, we can switch back and forth to the standard VA01 screen as we wish. And then we can do that by clicking here on this basic view. You can see we're back into our Create Standard Order screen. Now, the beauty of Personas is that we're not designing a brand new application. we're simply modifying the standard SAP screens and making them more functional. So in our example here, we've removed all of these tabs here, and we removed all the fields that we didn't want, and we took the fields that we did want into one single page. So our CSR in the scenario will be on the phone with the customer who wants to order some batteries. So he'll go ahead and add that to the shopping cart. Now let's say he just wants to order one. As we hit enter, we see that our screen will update with our net value. Now, next, we'll ask our customer how he wants to ship the package. And then using a simple script, when I click on the FedEx Ground button, we'll update our delivery route to FDXG. And then next, we'll enter our customer shipping information. Now, with the standard VA01 transaction, for a one-time customer, the way that you would do this is you would have to go into the header, you would have to go into the Partners tab, double-click on the Ship To address, and then edit that address from there. So we took away all these steps with this screen, and we've just moved those fields up into our main page. We're going to go ahead and enter our shipping address information. Okay. And then next, we would ask our customer how he wants to pay for the order. We're assuming he's going to do it via credit card. Let's say Mr. Smith has a Visa, so we'll click on the Visa button and automatically populate the credit card type. We'll put in the credit card number. I'll make a dummy one. I'm assuming none of you want to provide me yours. And then we'll also enter the CVC as well as the expiration date. Now, finally, we also need to enter a billing address that goes with that credit card. Now, like a lot of online shopping applications, we're not going to type that address again. We're just going to hit a copy ship address button, and now we'll bring in that address via a simple script from our shipping box to our billing box. And in the background, this will update the address of our bill to party. At this point, we're done entering all the order information that we need for the sales order. And we could just go ahead and hit save, or using our button here, create sales order. And then we would have to go ahead and subsequently create all the other documents, like our delivery, our handling unit, and our shipment, just like Brandon described. But instead of doing that, we're going to hit this other button here that says create all docs. And what this is going to do in the background is it's going to save the sales order. It's going to create a delivery for the sales order, create a handling unit within that delivery. It's going to pack that handling unit, get that information such as weight, ship to address, dimensions of that handling unit, send that to FedEx API. We're going to get a label back with a tracking number, and at the end we'll also create a shipment for that delivery. Now, in case you miss all that, we'll review that after we go back to our main screen. So now I'll just hit create all docs. It's going to take a little bit of time because SAP is actually doing all this processing in the background. And then we're back into our home screen. Now that we're here, we're going to demo what this third box is, and this is another script that gets all the documents that we just created. So when I hit Get Documents, it gives me my sales order, my delivery, my handling unit, the tracking number that we got from FedEx, and the shipment. We've also added some launch buttons here on the right. So for example, if I'm still on the phone with the customer and I want to, look up what the sales order printout was, I can do that here, and I see I have my ship to party address there. Additionally, if we wanted to, we could drill into the delivery that we just created, and this will take me to the VL03 screen. From there, we can even examine the document flow, and we'll see the transporter, the handling unit, and the shipment that were created. And then this is our shipping label just popped up here. Now, this would normally print out to the warehouse, but because we can't demo a Zebra printer here, we just sent it to a PDF. But ideally, what would happen is that this would go straight to the warehouse along with the pick sheet. So by the time our CSR is even done, or by the time they click the Create All Docs in the sales order and the CSR is back to the screen, the warehouse is already working on that order. So here we have that handling number, and finally, this is the tracking number that we got from FedEx. Now, were this a live tracking number, we could use this button here to launch our FedEx website with that tracking number. So if we were still, on the phone with our customer, we can give them an update of what the tracking status is, which at this point would just be that FedEx hasn't received it yet. But of course, because this isn't a live tracking number, we're not in a live shipping environment, nothing came up. So this is it as far as our demo, and then now I'll turn it back over to Brandon.
All right, thanks. And so at this point, in Olavo, I may have you jump back over to the persona screen, but if you would display the next slide. At this point, we're at Q&A, so feel free to start entering in questions. We may have another just brief demo to show you here. So go ahead and enter in some questions. We also wanted to say that the LinkedIn group that Olavo showed as part of his demo is out there. We've got people contributing to it. We're going to have a bunch of tutorials, all sorts of great personas and Fiori type stuff out there. So go ahead and join that. And then if you need any other information, feel free to reach out to me. There's my email address and my LinkedIn profile as well. So with that, Olavo, I'm going to go a little bit off script here, and we had a question come in around someone saw the create material button, and I do want to go back to that. So can we go back to the persona screen?
Sure.
So in the launch screen here is a create material. So in MMO1, for those of you that are material folks, there's a lot of screens. There's a lot of tabs. This is a task that is done quite frequently. So this demo is something that's in process for us, but I wanted to show it because what it does is it takes all of the different tabs and screens involved in creating material, and not only does it get you exactly what you need, but we have the ability with scripting to default a lot of data. So we don't need to go through the detailed demo here, Olavo, because I know we're still working through it, but what this is just a pretty quick customization of MMO1, and if you've got material master folks that are doing this stuff all the time, it will greatly speed up their process. And it's just part of one of the things that you can do to get your UX strategy up and off the ground. And Olavo, you're seeing questions come in as well, so jump in if you've got some answers.
Okay.
So one question, did you show Persona 2.0 or 3.0? So this demo was 2.0. We have a 3.0 environment up as well, but because 2.0 is in production and you can put this in tomorrow, we wanted to show that. But 3.0 does offer some improvements in that the scripting gets a little bit better. The user interface is nicer, and there's no Silverlight requirement. So from a technical perspective, if you wait for 3.0, it might be a little bit easier because you won't have Silverlight to worry about.
Okay. One question that we got is, can all the scripting be done in dev and transported? The short answer is no. All the scripting that you do is in personas as you're adding the flavor. You're not actually doing anything on the ABAP backend, so it's not something you really transport through the SAP environment. However, that said, you can control which users and which roles have access to which flavors. So, if you have a flavor that you're developing, that you have some scripting behind it, and even if that's calling some ABAP on the back end, that flavor you can kind of control it so it's not available in production until you know it's ready. Okay. So one other question is that, can the FedEx tracking number be retrieved at delivery creation? And the answer is yes. Now, the FedEx functionality that we showed is something that we have in-house. It's an interface, it's a custom interface that we developed that kind of talks to FedEx, sends them like handling unit and delivery information, and we get back a shipping label and a tracking number. This is something we developed because we found that a lot of people kind of enter all that information from SAP manually into another FedEx, either their website or a standalone program. So it is an interface that we developed so that we can get that information right out of SAP. That doesn't come standard with personas, but we did want to demo how within personas we can not only script actions that are standard to SAP, but it can also throw in some scripting that, uses some functionality that is completely custom.
So the next question, a lot of good questions, guys. Thanks a bunch. What are the requirements for using Persona 2.0? Would you suggest that we wait for 3.0 if we were going to embark on this journey? So for 2.0, you need, for Personas 2.0, you need kernel 7.21, and you need to be on ECC 6. And vast majority of customers are. So those are the only requirements there. And you will have to deal with Microsoft Silverlight for your rendering engine. For 3.0, it is all built into the NetWeaver gateway. So no more Silverlight, but you need to be on kernel 7.4 when that comes out. So I'm not sure that any ramp-up applications are still being accepted, which means they're getting close to the end of the program. So 3.0 should be available shortly. If you haven't started, if there's no technology in place, if Personas 2.0 isn't already in your system, I would recommend waiting for 3. But that doesn't mean you can't start thinking about the strategy behind why do I really need 3.0, why do I need Personas? Because again, like we mentioned, that's by far the most important part of all of this is let's make sure we get the strategy correct and talk about what the user is going to experience, and then we can layer in the technology, whether that's the new version of Personas or Fiori or whatever that technology is.
And one thing I would like to add on there, Brandon, if you do have Personas 2.0, you can migrate to 3.0. You're not going to lose all the work that you already did because you can migrate those flavors from 2.0 to 3.0.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Let's see here. Is there any additional cost from SAP for Personas? No, there's not. There's no licensing cost for Personas or for Fiori. It's just built into the gateway license. So that's the good news. The bad news is if you don't have the gateway set up, you will need to get that set up. That's not a huge piece of infrastructure, but and a lot of companies choose to host it in the cloud. But you will need to have a gateway environment if you don't already. And then, of course, if you need any assistance on the technical side, that'll be some additional cost as well. But overall, no license requirement, no maintenance, nothing like that. It's all built into your standard SAP license. All right, what else is out there for questions? All right, I think we answered them. I'm going to go through this list again. If I missed anything, I will reach out to everyone independently. We appreciate everyone's time today. Again, if you have any questions, if you just need some advice on what to pursue, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to me on email, join the LinkedIn group. You'll get some good content that way. And with that, I guess we'll wrap it up. I appreciate everyone's time today.